The National Theatre was formed in 1963. It's very unusual. It's the only theatre that's formed by government decree. So it was a bill passed through Parliament to set it up. The idea of it came shortly after the Second World War. The first director was Laurence Olivier, and he was given a sum of money to set the theatre up. And rather than wait for a new building, he decided that he would move into the Old Vic while they worked on the ideas for how to build a new theatre. So Denis Lasdun, the architect, and Olivier spent several years going around the world looking at other theatres. And one of the main places that influenced them was Epidaurus in Greece, which is a large rock-built amphitheatre. And in a way, he's trying to create a geological shape because it's the strata of the terraces that are copying the sort of a natural geological structure. But the overriding characteristic of the building is the board-marked concrete.
The National Theatre Together campaign started in spring 2020, very soon after we had to close our doors due to the COVID-19 pandemic. It became apparent very quickly that we would lose most of our income overnight, so we launched a really comprehensive fundraising campaign with the goal of raising £40 million over a 2-year period. We asked Endpoint to create a one-off, bespoke piece of art, essentially. We looked at lots of donor boards around other cultural organisations, but what we wanted was something that felt unique to the National Theatre, something that felt like it had really amazing craftsmanship and design at its centre, but also was really authentic to the National Theatre. We really touched on the idea of light and of a luminaire as a way of really celebrating our most generous donors and having their name in lights. But I think the main challenge just for us is that we always want to create the most beautiful and unique opportunities for our supporters to feel proud of their relationship with National Theatre. So the hard thing was finding something that was really different to what every other organisation had done, but also work with this really fabulous architecture and not work against it.
One of the challenges for this building now is that it's a Grade 2 star listed building, so we are limited with some of the things that we can do. We have a conservation management plan that gives us some guidance on what we're allowed to do, but certain elements of the building are protected. The major element that's protected is the board-marked concrete. We shouldn't really be drilling into it. Over the years people have, but we now limit that very much. And the concrete itself, although it looks very tough, is actually not as resilient as it looks. It can get damaged easily and it's not easy to repair. So we tried to sort of not attach too much to the concrete. We also wanted, the concrete is such a feature of the building that we wanted to not cover that with something. So the idea of having something that hung from above rather than was attached to the concrete was one of the sort of the first briefs we sort of gave them. One of the other challenges is that the foyer spaces, although during the daytime are lovely and spacious, in the evenings there are 2,500 people walking through the foyers, so you had to have something that wouldn't take up space, but at the same time you wanted something that was very impactful. So the idea of hanging something in the eye line we felt would actually be quite successful. Lasdun said that the foyers themselves were the fourth auditorium and the audience themselves were the performers and the city as a backdrop. What's so great now with the lighting installation, it's another part of that backdrop.
We're also really proud of the fact that we can see this installation from outside. Audiences walking across the bridge can see this and wonder what is that spark of light inside. And also audiences coming in from the Olivier can see it during the day and in the evening as well. We settled on a coated aluminium, which is really important to us that it was a sustainable material, but also we wanted something that felt like it was authentic to the National Theatre. So we chose a colour palette that was part of Lasdun's original design. But also the National Theatre is the largest factory in central London, and we wanted something that felt like it had got a bit of that grit, a little bit of the industrial feel. What we really wanted to avoid was anything incredibly corporate or anything too slick, and I think we've got just the right combination. We really loved working in collaboration with the Endpoint team. Of course, this building is full of some of the world's best designers and directors who have very strong ideas about how things should look and feel in this building, quite rightly. And it was fantastic to see the way that the Endpoint team worked with the creatives in this building to make something that's incredibly authentic to the National Theatre and sits beautifully in our foyer. When we unveiled the installation in January, it was absolutely wonderful to see the supporters whose names are up there wander inside the space and look up and find their names, and there was such delight and wonder on their faces. That's something I will never forget.